So, do you have special consideration embryos? You're done with your IVF, you've built your family, and you have what are considered special consideration embryos, and you're a little doubtful that somebody will choose them. Well, we want to reshape your thinking in this podcast. Conversely, if you are a recipient looking for embryos and you've thought, well, special consideration may not be for me, think again, because it may not be always exactly what you think. Hi there, I am Mark Mellinger, welcoming you to the Embryo Adoption Podcast. It is a service of the National Embryo Donation Center. You can find out more about us at embryodonation.org. Again, that's embryodonation.org. I am the Marketing and Development Director, and today we have two guests with us. First of all is one of our embryo donors. His name is Patrick McMahon, and he'll be with us for the duration, as will Kelly Seymour, who, if you're watching the video version, is right beside me. And she is sort of our double threat. She works with both our recipients and our donors here at the NEDC. So, man, great to have you both here. And Patrick, you're joining us from New York. So let's just start with you. You are a donor, as I mentioned, and have donated special consideration embryos. I said at the beginning, that's not necessarily what people may be envisioning when they hear that term. Talk about your situation, your family building route, and how you came into contact with the NEDC.
Okay, so where to begin? So right now I'm 56. So I long story short, I got married late. I got married at 50, which could have gotten married earlier. I think around 30 was when I could have done it, and I didn't. I didn't think it was the right time, and then I really didn't start. And then in my 30s, I was working on my career, traveling. I like to run marathons, so I was running. And then when I turned 40, I started to date again. And long story short, I didn't find the right person, who was my wife, Lisa Lee, until maybe I was 44. So we dated for a number of years, and then I proposed, and then we got married just after my 50th birthday. And and she's only a year younger than me. So this is kind of a crazy story. So she reached out to her niece, her name is Rachel, to donate an egg. And Rachel was very sweet. And just so you know, I'm Irish, my wife is Chinese, right? So we live in New York City, like you said. And so it was a conversation they had in Chinese, they never knew about it. And then she said to me, oh, Rachel wants to donate her eggs. And again, another long story short, was very successful. I think she was able to donate like 24, something incredible. And then we went the extra step. We did everything with Weill Cornell, which is a top hospital in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. We live in Midtown by Bryant Park, if that means anything. So, so we came out with 4, they call PGT.
That's right.
Embryos. And then our doctor chose the one. There was a picture of one that I'll have to show it to you at some point, where anyway, it's another. I'm not going to describe it well, so I won't do it. But he said this is the perfect one. So we have a son, beautiful son named Vincent, who was actually named after my brother, who only lived a day. So I always said if I ever had a son, we would name him Vincent. We did. So apparently, all the 4 PGT tested eggs are all males, and beautiful. So we have a beautiful boy. He's in daycare right now. We both work from home right now, and so we're left with these 3 other ones, and just want to do the right thing. I mean, she had a complication again. She's only younger than. Just the fact that she actually gave birth was a miracle. So Rachel donated the embryo, but excuse me, my wife carried I'm sorry, she donated the egg. My wife carried the embryo. And so he was born, like, I think about 5 weeks premature. But in the end, it all worked out. And then we have these 3 other ones that she'd love to have a brother for Vincent, but it's just given our age and given what she went through, it's just not realistic. So then And then, and not, I wouldn't say it was an afterthought, but we were so concerned at the time. He was premature. And so I didn't really think about the ones that were frozen. But then as time went on, we made a decision like, yeah, I mean, we should look into donating these. So then Will Cornell mentioned NEDC, and they're terrific. And then she said that my contacts there said they only work with a couple of places. I know it's a little complicated in New York in terms of donating embryos versus donating just an egg. So that's when I reached out to Kelly. I filled out the paperwork. So I appreciate everything. I know a lot of questions, a lot of, so does that make sense? Is that very clear? So
yes.
That's kind of where we're at. And then the last point was taking the blood test, making sure that I'm okay. And I know there's one issue, the hepatitis B, which, is that what you consider a special case? Because that's the only issue that I know. And Vincent doesn't have Hep B. He got the vaccination early on. Beautiful, healthy boy. And like I said, I'm Catholic too. So I really want to do this right. And I think if there's a chance for these 3 embryos to have life, I'm all on board. And I will, even the issue about keeping them at Will Cornell because of the Hep B, issue being out there. And again, my wife doesn't have it. I think Rachel, I think both of them, that's one thing. And one thing I've learned with all this whole process is that my wife said that back in the day, China is a different place now, but back in the day, they actually, in hospitals, they shared needles. So there was this whole, that's how the Hep B, I think, issue came about. So they're both kind of, we're exposed to it, but they don't have it. But because of that, as you know, that's why there's, I guess, a special case right now. But I really hope it doesn't hold back the donation, because I think whoever, if we're fortunate to have a donor family, I think they'd be just thrilled with how beautiful the children could be. So I know it was a long speech, and but anyway, I hope that helps.
You're a New Yorker.
We edit this too, because I think I'm more rambling. I don't like to be. This is like a job interview kind of a thing, which I don't know how I look. And I'm, like I said before, I'm wearing a T-shirt here, so I should have put on a suit and tie, because I do take this seriously. And the last thing I'll say, I didn't everything that you've asked for, I want to comply with, because I so want to do this. And every day I meditate, pray to God. I'm like, I really want to do this right. So I appreciate your help, and whatever happens, I think as long as I know that I tried my best, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you for your time, and thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for your organization. And I really hope this works out.
Well, Kelly, you have just, I know you've loved working with this guy, and you actually suggested, hey, this would be a great donor
Absolutely.
to do a podcast with. So tell me about how your interactions with Patrick began, and how it was because of the Hep B, which again, what we're trying to get across is that this is not a serious issue, but it did make things a little bit more delicate, right?
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank you for your willingness to do this and to continue, even though it seemed like there was a roadblock there. Your willingness to continue on, because not all of our donors do that. There's obviously a little bit more of a cost for you, because we have to store the embryos off site until they're adopted, as we list your embryos available for adoption. So the FDA and CDC have guidelines set up for anybody that's donating their embryos. And, just because we have to list embryos in special considerations doesn't necessarily mean that these embryos are going to develop into a child with special needs or a long-lasting condition that might impact their life. Just like you said, your son is perfect and normal, and we see that all the time. So the FDA requires that our donors have extra lab work and testing before they donate their embryos, which is a good thing. And when you have a positive hepatitis B, which doesn't necessarily mean you have hepatitis B, it may just be an exposure to it. It could be, all these things. But if it's a positive, the FDA requires us to list that as a special consideration, because the risk is not zero. But it, that, and I think I explained that to you, Patrick, before that was the reason for that. And so because the chances aren't zero, we have to list these as special considerations because there's a slight risk. However, there has never been a case where an embryo has developed into a child with hepatitis B. There's never been a documented case of that, nor has there been a documented case that an embryo from donors that had hepatitis B or a hepatitis B positive lab has affected the recipient mother. So those are good things. So these embryos, like I said, we have to list those as special considerations, but that doesn't mean that that's going to develop into anything like that. So, this is all about education, and that these embryos are good embryos. They're good quality. You've already had a son from them. They've been genetically tested. So that's very much sought after. And it's a good quality embryo that someone may not consider as a choice for them because it's got a label on it.
And that's what we really want to get across as one of the points that we really want to get across in this episode is, when you're going through embryo adoption, whether it's with us or with somebody else, don't overlook the special consideration, right?
That's right. There's a wide range of different ones in there for different reasons. Sometimes it can be a long distance family member that's got some sort of condition that the FDA and CDC requires us to list it as that, just so you're aware of the risk. The recipient is aware of those risks, but that doesn't mean anything bad. That doesn't mean that's actually going to happen. It's an opportunity to research it a little bit more, to have conversations about it, and then make the best choice for yourself, but to not necessarily overlook those that are in that category. Yeah.
So where are we at? And Patrick will bring you back in here in a second. But I'll start with Kelly on this one. Where are we at? Are we able to share where we are in terms of potentially matching Patrick and his wife's embryos?
So Patrick doesn't know this, but as of today, your profile is listed as available for adoption. Yay. I have a couple of recipients in mind that hopefully this is really going to work out. I've talked to one of them already about the situation, and they seem very open. They are still working through their process to be fully approved on the recipient side, but they're open to the discussions about this. So I'm really hoping that works out. Or there's a couple others that I have in mind that I think would be an excellent match. So I'm hoping it all works out.
So cool to hear that. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, Kelly. You've been a sweetheart from the beginning, and that is great news. So thank you so much. And I want this to work so much, and whatever I can do to support this whole process, I'm so on board. And this means these embryos to me are like family. So I God bless you, and that is just awesome news. Thank you so much, and whatever I can do to help the process, please let me know. But that is just awesome news. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I very much have enjoyed your profile that you have completed.
So,
I hear you're a great air guitar player.
It's so funny. I love, and I'm almost embarrassed. My father had died when I was a kid, but he played the flute. I mean, I love classic rock. I'm seeing the Eagles tomorrow at Madison Square Garden, and I love music so much, but I'm embarrassed that I don't play anything. So I said, let's have fun with it, And how many times do I play Stairway to Heaven comes out and you stage, I love Don Henley and Glenn Fry. So so I was just trying to have fun with it because
I hope you like Springsteen if you're from that area.
Bruce, and believe it or not, we actually saw Bruce Springsteen. He's on. He returned to Broadway with all the pandemic. Obviously, Broadway was closed. So long story short, actually, it was around Lisa's birthday, so I took her to see Bruce Springsteen on Broadway, and then the big concert on Saturday. It was cut in half because we had this major rainstorm. So I love Bruce. I love. So that's the thing, and that's what my point is. It was a silly kind of answer, but my point is that music is so important to me, and art. We have a couple of apartments, so and my wife is very she loves to paint and stuff like that. So we love art and music. So wanted to bring that across, even though I can't draw for my life, but anyway, it's all about right now. We want to get Vincent involved in music, and love to have these embryos, the children that will be born from them to be involved in music. So that's where I was coming from with that silly answer. So I'm glad you appreciate it.
Well, I enjoyed it, and you're listed as an open donor. So this will be matched with an open recipient that you'll have ongoing communication with. And so I think they'll see the same quality that I saw when I saw your profile. And so that'll draw some recipients in, I hope, and I hope the perfect match is made.
That'd be so grateful. I'm a little choked up right now. So that's what I wanted all along. Every day I really do. I do pray and meditate, and I always pray for, like I said, these, just the whole circumstance, getting married late, and Lisa reaching out to her niece, who was obviously, she was 30 at the time. So it was just an incredible miracle. I just to see my son, and to know that there's this possibility of life with these three other ones, that, because I know when we went through it, and again, I'm all over the place. I apologize. Like, we went to the Will Cornell for this process. It was like this room full of people that I was just shocked, all different ages, who were trying to do what we were trying to do, is have a baby. Mm-hmm. So my buddy's like, hey, maybe we can help this process and really give life, because I really am. I'm very pro-life, and we're all given this life, and life can be crazy, pandemic, everything else, but life is beautiful, and I really want to, as long as I'm on earth, really make this happen. And I love that you say open, because I'm so open. Whatever I can do along the whole life, it's not going to step up at any point. This is like forever, ever in my heart and my thoughts. So thank you. And this is such awesome news, because I often wonder about that. So I took the blood, I did all the blood work, and then was it Libby? Libby's a very sweet.
Yes.
Libby.
Yes.
Yeah. So then she says, oh, we're almost on the active list. There was some other thing they had to check out. So this was great news to me. So thank you. And I'll stop rambling.
Well, it's great. We are so glad that you took the time to join us today. And yeah, oddly enough, I wanted, we don't have intro music on this podcast, and it's because I was thinking Stairway to Heaven, but my boss rejected it, so we just go with no music. So I'm glad that you brought a little Zeppelin into the conversation as well. Hey, but before we go, Kelly, I do think one last bit of information might be important when we talk about special consideration embryos. Okay, so we mentioned the Hep B. We've spent a lot of time on that today. What other conditions would, like, what do you have just a quick thumbnail sketch of what conditions might be considered special consideration, and which means that the embryos are stored separately, versus what sort of medical conditions would not be considered special consideration?
Sure. So I can list a few. Autism is one.
That's a special consideration.
It's special consideration. And as we know that it's not established completely as to why autism happens. There could be a genetic disposition for that. And then there can also be other factors that can play into that. So just because one child has autism doesn't mean a sibling would, or, another relative would. So, but we still have to list it that way, just because we have to make sure that our recipients are aware that could be a risk,
Sure.
possibly.
Sure.
Down syndrome is also listed in there. Major mental health conditions such as schizophrenia, things like that could have a genetic link to it. And that could be an actual sibling or a parent or another extended relative that has one of these conditions.
Okay, so heart conditions, cancer, things like that, those generally are not going to be special consideration?
Some heart conditions are in there.
Okay.
If there is a genetic link, possibly. But and what was that one that you asked me about?
I believe I asked about cancer.
Yeah, that one's not usually in there, unless it's like a form of like breast cancer, one that can be genetically have a genetic disposition to it. Yeah.
Well, this is just really good information. Very, very good to know. I so appreciate you two joining us. Patrick, again, thank you so much for giving the gift of life and for entertaining us. We spend a lot of time in this work talking to the adopters. We don't always get to talk to the donors, and I'm so glad that we have gotten to talk with you, because you're just a great spokesman. I'm so happy for you, for Lisa, for Vincent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kelly, and everybody involved in this. And like I said, thanks for the great news. And if there's anything I could do, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Absolutely.
And yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad. God bless NEDC. So thank you, and I'm happy to do this podcast, even though I'm a little camera shy. I'm so happy to do this because the big picture is I want this to happen so much. So
well, it's a great service, and we thank you so much. If you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website. It's embryodonation.org. Again, embryodonation.org for the National Embryo Donation Center. With Kelly Seymour and Patrick McMahon, I'm Mark Mellinger. This has been the Embryo Adoption Podcast.